Well, we speak on a day when Herbalife, the main sponsor of this particular summit, has completed 22 years of operations in India. So that's a milestone, and I'm sure that John would be very proud of achieving that milestone. John, thank you for speaking with me today, and it's always a pleasure to interact with you.
Namaste, Rahul. Namaste.
Great to hear your voice. I know it's very early, very late where you are, California, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
We're speaking not long after we celebrated our 75th Independence Day, and we are looking ahead now to the next 25 years in terms of aspirations, opportunities, and growth. What's your own vision for India now that you've completed 22 years? What's the next 25 looking like?
Well, first of all, let me just join you in congratulating the entire society of India, the country, for this momentous occasion. 75 years post-independence. You now have the ability to kind of look forward to that 100-year mark. I will note, however, with great respect, that civilization in India started 4,000, 5,000 years ago, and this journey towards your destiny has continued through many changes and many kind of administrations. And it's always been a journey that I believe has been marked by a strong culture of entrepreneurialism, of creativity, and of a striving for excellence. And even today, as I think about what the future holds for India, I'm just struck by the deep-seated roots in its culture, in its ethics, in its principles, and I'm excited. I couldn't be more excited as I think about the future. It's one of the fastest-growing economies. You have created and nurtured one of the fastest-growing economies in the world. And what's exciting about it is there's a sense in kind of the modern era that you're only just getting started, that there's so much more to come, that for those that are a part of this journey, there is great reward. We are, as a company, as you mentioned, we've been in India for 22 years. We're honored. And we're proud of the fact that we've been a part, we've been able to join India in that growth that you've experienced over the last 75 years. I do want to call out with great respect and admiration, obviously the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He and the central government, but also state governments across the country, their policies, I believe, are absolutely at the center of this amazing period of growth that we've seen in India. And I have no doubt that if they continue to be governments and leaders that nurture entrepreneurs and the business environment, that the future of India is going to be something that I don't think any civilization around the world has ever seen. And I know that I sound a little over the top. I sound perhaps a little exuberant in my support, but I have the experience of looking at the 95 countries that our company is in. We're in 95 countries around the world. The company as a whole has been around for 42 years. And I get to compare what I see as I travel the world. I've been to India many times, and I must say, I wish I could be there right now. That sounds like an amazing, you just had an absolutely fantastic conversation with the minister. I wish I was there in person. But I do want to note also that this notion of Atmanirbhar Bharat, this kind of self-reliant India, I think it has the potential to truly accelerate the business environment and the growth of your beautiful nation as we look to the future. We're committed to doing whatever it takes to play our role, to play our part, but to just kind of summarize, I have a vision that says India one day, at least within my universe, the universe of Herbalife Nutrition, could very well become one of our biggest markets. Of the 95 that we're in, we see India on a track to becoming probably one of our top number 1 or number 2 markets in the world in the not too distant future. I congratulate all of you for that.
Thank you. I'm sure that's appreciated. And John, never fear. we like people talking in exaggerated terms about our country. Why not? And it's actually global leaders like you. When you make that point, you actually talk up the India growth story, which is really what we're trying to hard sell internationally. And if you would ask the government, that's really what they're trying to do. So it's nice to get a refreshing perspective from outside that India is still really the place to be at, the place to invest. So we take certainly no offense. John Agwunobi, be the ambassador for this country that you are.
It's an honor. It's an honor.
Well, let's move a little forward. As you've said, yes, India is one of the world's fastest growing economies. It's also democracy. What are some of the key ingredients big companies like Herbalife and among others look when they seek to expand in a country like India? When they say, okay, look, we're going to invest millions here and we're going to be rewarded. What are some of these factors?
Yeah, well, they're the obvious factors that are touted by the World Bank and by others. Political stability is important. The democracy is, I believe, one of the best ways to assure the stability, political stability of a market, and India has that, a very strong democracy and political stability. Obviously, security and the rule of law. These are things that are important for any business and not just global businesses that are working within your shores, but also for small businesses within the country. I believe security and the rule of law are also important, and India is noted for both. I think the other thing, of course, is a regulatory construct that is both protective of consumers. Your speaker before me, the MP, was very clear in the role of government in protecting the people. But it should also be a regulatory construct that is encouraging of growth, nurturing of growth, a regulatory construct that is designed to balance the needs of both the consumer and the businesses and investors that are committing to that environment. When all is said and done, it's not quite perfect, but it's close. Right? There's always an opportunity to make things better. And it is a community, an environment, a situation that is evolving. And I see it evolving in the right direction. Now, there are things that are specific to our company. We're in the business of healthy nutrition. We sell nutrition products, and we help small businesses thrive. And I'll come back to that point in just a second. But we're also looking, when we enter any market, we're looking for places where there's a growing population, growing demand, and an opening of awareness to the importance of nutrition. And we see that in India. But the other side of our business is we're in the business of supporting small businesses. We're a direct seller, so our job is to try to encourage small businesses, entrepreneurs, to start their own business and sell our products to others in their community. And in doing so, we try to unleash the natural economic power of a society, of a community, through small micro enterprises, micro entrepreneurs. And in India, as I was stating earlier, there is this natural affinity for entrepreneurial endeavors. There's an encouragement for small businesses. And we believe that the government today has put in place a number of policies that are actually really good and really supportive of small businesses. So for us, those key tests are met. And that's one of the reasons I can be as exuberant and perhaps as excited about the future of India and the future of Herbalife nutrition in that country. I will also say, just kind of in closing on this particular question, that it's important that the societies where we work also have the opportunity to grow. Whether it be social responsibility or respect for business and for the entrepreneur, especially for the small businessman, the small business person, it's important to us that we invest in countries where we know that those small entrepreneurs will be nurtured by their governments, by their communities. And as I've said, India in many regards is the model for this, right? It's committed to growing its economy from the ground up, not just with big superstructure, massive companies from around the world or from within India, but it's also, we can tell there's a very clear commitment to supporting small and micro entrepreneurship in India, and those are the things we look for.
Very interesting. India liberalized its economy 30 years ago, as you know, and many bureaucratic and red tape controls were removed, and you've sort of recognized how the government's been working over the last decade and a half, 2 decades to try and unleash the entrepreneurial spirits here of the locals. Now, give us a perspective on how crucial that really is to promote a spirit of entrepreneurship.
Well, it's not just the spirit. I mean, there are very real and practical things that have to be promoted as well. Infrastructure, for example. You were talking earlier about a free and open internet. That's an important part, especially in today's entrepreneurial kind of universe. That's a tool, a tactical tool that people use to open their businesses, to conduct their business. And so it's important that the government, in nurturing entrepreneurship, also recognizes that it has an important role to play in laying the rails, so to speak, the infrastructure upon which those entrepreneurial endeavors can run, can thrive. By the way, investing in education is an important part of providing a nurturing environment for entrepreneurs, because educated talent, not only does it become the seed that becomes the tree of entrepreneurship, but it also provides the food, the nurture that tree requires over time. And I believe India, from many years ago, understood the importance and the power of education, and I think that's translating today into a very fertile, forgive me for driving the analogy a little too far, but a very fertile environment for young entrepreneurs. Now, I think there's more to it than that. Entrepreneurs are always looking for, and people are drawn, especially younger entrepreneurs are drawn into business when they believe there's a purpose. It can't just be about wealth and economics. It's a foundational part of any society, and it has to provide a solid base upon which many different aspects of society can grow. So when you have a strong support for the arts, for the sciences, and for business, they're synergistic. They work together. They allow for the brain to flourish. And so, having said that, I do think that entrepreneurship in India is best supported by having support for infrastructure, having support for education, and having an understanding of the importance of liberal, but also very kind of structured regulation, so that people understand what they need to do in order to be successful. Strong policies, but a nimble environment for people to work in. And I think India's headed in that direction.
Well, your company's shown impressive results, growth of 46% in just the last quarter here in India, and is looking to set new records. Why don't you tell us a bit about your short-term expansion plans going forward and goals?
Yeah, so I have to be honest, our plans are not just short-term. We have long-term plans for India. We're committed to India for the long haul. And even as we today begin to build out our own technology infrastructure as a company, or begin to build out our supply chain into more and more rural parts of India, even as we begin to train talent within our teams for the future in India, or begin to develop product like that is very local in nature. Product like we have a meal replacement nutrition product, a protein product that is kulfi flavor. We just launched another one that is rose kheer flavor, very local flavors, manufactured in India. All our products are manufactured. Even as we begin to build out that infrastructure, our goal is not just for the short term. Actually, to the contrary, our view is that India is going to be an important part of our business far into the future. And with that in mind, we want to be an integral part of the community. Our goal is not to be visitors. India's home. Our associates on the ground, our employees on the ground, our plants in India, our facilities in India, India's home, and we're here for the long term.
Well, that's good to know. A lot is made of India's demographic dividend. We have the highest working age population. 63% of Indians fall between the age of 15 and 59. We have an enormous middle class, captive, employable youth. Do you think we can capitalize on that, and how?
Oh, wow, now this is where I'm really going to get excited here. I have to tell you, that youthful spirit of India, that vibrant approach to life, not just to business, but to life, that is, I think it's one of the reasons India is so resilient. I mean, you've just come through a pandemic and a particularly devastating pandemic in India that would have brought any other nation to its knees. You had a V-shaped recovery, and I think a part of it is the fact that you have such a young, vibrant workforce, a resilient workforce. Candidly, a workforce that doesn't quit, never quits, and never will. And I do think that youthfulness, I think it's what's going to drive the next big wave of growth in India, right? These are young people that are striving to build lives for themselves in the right environment from a standpoint of regulatory and infrastructure. I think they will unleash their natural potential on the economy in a way that drives it in ways that you could never do from the outside. It's going to happen from within. We're particularly excited by the fact that that youthful workforce, 15 through 59, that sweet spot, there's so many people in that group that are trying to build businesses for themselves, for their families, and for their communities. They're trying to create healthy communities. By the way, the youth of the world are a lot more aware of the importance of health, of nutrition, of fitness, and physical activity, all of which I think are going to make for expanded opportunities, business opportunities in those fields. I know that it's also true that the younger generation, it's a lot more equal in its growth, right? So both men and women, young girls, young men have equal opportunity to kind of build a future for themselves. I actually think that India is blessed with the youthful kind of demographic. You combine that demographic with empowering regulation and support from government and education, and I think anything is possible. It's funny, you already look at what we're talking today about India's independence and 75 years in and 25 years from now, and I'm beginning to realize India's become a global player. It truly is. It's not just about its own internal growth and development. India's beginning to influence other countries around the world in a dramatic way. And I think a part of that is because people are traveling the world. That youthful kind of vibrant approach to life is causing people to travel and influence others, to acquire education and come home, to grow business within India, whether it be in technology or in other spaces. The digital transformation of the world, I think, is going to be led by India that youthful demographic that's so comfortable with technology begins to take it places no other country can. So I think, candidly, my company, Herbalife Nutrition, is lucky and blessed to be a part of India's growth at this time. I think it's a blessing, a total blessing, to have the kind of population, the demographic that you have.
A blessing, yes, indeed, and I think that's an important point, but it can all turn very quickly, can it not, if we don't grow at the requisite pace that we should, because that will then become a liability, the huge working population, and trigger unemployment fears and societal unrest, and you know how that goes. So can you stress how crucial it is to nurture entrepreneurial culture in the country's south?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, having a population that wants more, that is hungry for more, and that is striving to make things happen, and then not having jobs, you suddenly have a rift between aspiration and reality. And I do think, as you point out, that making sure that growth continues, that there's no stalling of that growth, that everyone sees an opportunity that they can fit into, is an important part of the stability that you need to see for growth to continue uninterrupted. Obviously, education is a big part of providing for that youth, but then making sure that there's a bridge from education into jobs that feed the family is an important part of every policymaker's, I think, responsibility. You think about that empowering youth actually helps create jobs. I love the fact that this notion of micro-entrepreneurialism and small businesses, it's a way for the youth to bridge that gap themselves. They're not a big company to give them a job. They can create their own jobs, their own businesses. Small, true, but giving them the ability to not only feed their families and to meet their own personal needs, but also allowing them an outlet for their creative juice, for their desire to create and grow. And so I do think it's important that, in addition to being an economy that welcomes large employers, large manufacturers, and helps create within the economy big employers, the government and society also needs to be in the business of promoting small, independent entrepreneurs and businesses, from a shopkeeper to a farmer to a taxi driver. Being able to nurture small businesses is an important part of mature economies. And you can't have an economy that simply relies on the big multinational companies or big companies that manufacture and employ many people. You have to have a strong, vibrant microeconomy down below, not only because of the fact that it offers the youth a bridge out of education on into the workplace and perhaps hope for them growing their own businesses, but also because it improves consumerism. It helps assure that there's a strong consumer base, people that have a little extra cash in order to spend and to live in their societies. And it provides people, I think, the stability, a place to go. If there aren't big jobs, create your own. And I do think there's a role for government, obviously, but there's also a role for other companies. So I think other companies need to make India, made in India, those kinds of programs, which I applaud. They generate growth at every strata of the economic kind of construct. The ability to have people who work for big firms buy locally from small businesses. I think that's an important part of the ecosystem that needs to be built. And I think India is well on the way to doing that. So I'm really pleased, honored, and proud to be a part of that entire community.
Well, from what you've said, John Agwunobi, you fit into the vocal for local dream that we're nurturing here. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and best of luck and God bless.
Thank you. Namaste.